Hello everyone, thanks for joining me. Today we're talking new Profusion. So Profusion is a line that is in my local Walmart store. Many of you may have it as well. You can also find it on Walmart's website. This is a line, if you're not familiar with Profusion, I remember years ago, like probably in the mid-2000s, you might go to Walgreens around the holidays and you'd see some special holiday palettes on display that maybe looked like they didn't belong to any particular brand, but more than likely those were Profusion palettes. In the last several years, I feel like they've moved away from being this kind of anonymous makeup brand and instead being an identifiable and very affordable brand in Walmart. Palettes are still a key part of what they do, so you will see lots of larger palettes. They're still selling, like, I think the little 10-pan palettes, which I really enjoy. But in addition to those things, they've expanded what they're offering complexion-wise. We've got a new foundation to talk about today. We got a new little lip product that looks fun, and also this set. Now, I've tried some different sets from Profusion over the years. I think sometime within the past year I reviewed their little like beauty portfolio, which really had tons going on. And this is called their Artistry on the Go set. So it's like a couple of palettes, but also several brushes and some primers as well. And I saw they had 3 different color options available. This is probably the most neutral one. It's called In the City. These are $14.98, these little cases. And a lot of their products remain very reasonably priced. We're talking maybe $10 to $13 for some of their larger palettes. 10 color palettes for $5. But if you haven't explored this brand, it's definitely one worth checking out. They've got a great powder formula in their palettes, be it eye palettes or face palettes. And one of the best things really that they make are their brushes. You've seen me use their eye brushes video after video. They've got some great face brushes as well. I know in Walmart stores, you can get different things online if you really dig for it, but in Walmart stores, they sell a brush trio that contains 2 of the eye brushes I always use, the crease brush and the small pointed brush, and they've got a trio of face brushes as well with some really good options for like foundation and powder. And yeah, I would just highly recommend the brushes. We do have 3 brushes in here. I played with this set yesterday. It's kind of tough to make a 3-brush set work for full face, but they truly can do a lot. They were pretty well chosen brushes, but this is the way this little case works. It's a solid case. It opens up and it may or may not be the type of thing that you conveniently keep putting away in the way that they've done it here, because there's just like a little cardboard piece in between the 2 layers. I suppose one thing you could do is take out all of these plastic inserts and just put the products themselves inside if you wanted to, but for now I'm using the inserts. I've got my face palette here, which has highlighter, bronzer, and blush, and I've got this eye palette that reminds me tons of their $5 smoky palette. And then on the other side, we've got our face primer, eye primer, and 3 brushes. One is an angled face brush and 2 are eyeshadow brushes. One looks like a jumbo bullet brush, which I was actually able to use in some surprising ways to create the look. And then we've got a blending brush. The one thing I didn't use yesterday as I was kind of test driving these products was the face primer. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then we'll try our new foundation. Tiny squeeze tube here. Oh, it's a clear primer. Does not feel super sticky. As I blend a little bit more, I'm feeling some of the tackiness actually. So it goes on feeling thin and spreadable, but within seconds, it becomes more of a tacky primer, feeling more like those gripping primers. Probably even a bit more sticky than the Hard Candy 12-hour makeup grip primer. Now this is their newly repackaged foundation. They made something called Feel Good Skin in a squeeze tube, and actually when I first laid eyes on these and I saw it said Longwear Skin Perfector, I just was thinking, oh, one of those Skin Perfectors, one of those Hollywood Flawless Filter types of products. But no, it is their foundation, just put into a pump style, like twist the top type of packaging. And they're charging about $1 more than they used to. We're talking like $7 and change for this. Definitely does stay below the $10 mark, which a lot of new foundations, as I always say, go above the $10 mark, it seems. This is cruelty-free and vegan. It says hyaluronic acid and vitamin E infused, medium to full coverage, natural satin finish, and it does have SPF 15. I got the shade Light 210, and I actually really enjoyed this foundation when it was in the squeeze tube. Haven't used it in a while. I've got a full pump here, and a full pump does seem to give you quite a bit. I'm going to patch it around. You will notice kind of a heavy fragrance with this, which I don't love. It has this nice, like really fresh scent. I just don't know that that's necessary in a foundation, you know? But we patched it all around, and we're going to just start bopping that in. and they're saying it's medium to full coverage, and I feel like I'm seeing a really good look from this. It's reminding me kind of the new e.l.f. foundation. You know how that one's a satin finish? I did not have the best staying power with this yesterday. I really put it through some things. I actually left it on during pool time, and I just had a lot going on yesterday. And I wasn't wowed. However, I only set in my T-zone. So I think if I set it a little bit more all over, I will probably have a better outcome where the staying power is concerned. But see how that coverage is really even. I would say it's a strong medium coverage with one pump before you build anything up, you know. The more I look at it, the more I like it. Like, I'm loving how it is picking up a little bit of light. It's not feeling ultra tacky on my skin. And like I said, yesterday I didn't use that primer that was provided, and maybe that will help today with the staying power a little bit, and also just deliberately setting all over my face just a little bit more. But as for just the look of the foundation at the onset, I think it's looking really great, and my concealer doesn't really have that much work to do because, like I said, this is a strong medium coverage product. But I am going to move on, do some concealer in a couple areas, set my skin, and then we'll use some of those face powder steps in the little palette. Okay, we're back, and here's what I did. I used my L'Oreal True Match Serum Concealer, which I have in C1. I just wanted to use something that was possibly a slight bit hydrating and kind of on the lighter side. I thought it might wear better because my skin's in a weird place of, yeah, you're going to be sweating sometimes in the hot car and outside, and you got the humidity factor, which sometimes causes the T-zone to get oily. But then I feel like I have some pool-induced dryness that my skin comes away with. I've been swimming for a couple hours or more. So staying power can be tricky these days, but I'm trying that. I set that with Maybelline Fit Me Loose Powder on the under eye and the T-zone, and then I very lightly took this Maybelline Super Stay Powder, which I wear in 128. It says Hybrid Powder Foundation. I've been using this on and off lately, just really lightly, because this truly can be powder foundation. It has a lot of coverage, but I'm just getting a light amount on my brush and kind of dabbing it over the rest of the face. And usually when I pull this in, I get a lot better staying power result, much more consistent all over the skin. So we're pulling that into the look today to see if that helps out. And then we move into our little face palette from our In the City set. What comes in here, we've got two shimmery powders at the top. One is more like softly pearly. It actually has a little bit of a mosaic going on in there. And the other one is very highly shimmery. And then you've got like two tones of pink blush, a warmer pink, a cooler pink. We've got kind of a shimmery peach right here. And then this one, yesterday I actually used it a little bit as a bronzer, but I'm feeling more like it's actually a dusty rose kind of blush. And then we do have this angled brush, which will work for any of those blush or highlight steps. Before I get that going though, I am going to put on some bronzer. I'm going to use my NYX Buttermelt in the shade Deserve Butta. It's kind of a satin finish bronzer here, powder bronzer. The satin finish is pretty subtle, but this tone just looks really good on my skin. So I'm going to apply that around. Like if I made that mini palette, I would have only given one highlighter and then taken the other highlight and made it just a setting powder, and then really make sure that that one blush that kind of looks bronzer-ish, just make that be a pure bronzer. That palette could have gotten way more versatile that way. Still very multitasking as is, and it's giving you a nice wardrobe of blushes. And as far as this little set goes, I'm kind of sitting here thinking, like, who is it for? Well, any makeup lover may enjoy these products because they're nicely pigmented, good quality little palettes in there. Plus you get a couple primers, plus you get some usable brushes. Some of these things could be very travel friendly, so I see that. But as a whole, I think of it kind of with beginners in mind, and being able to get quite a few products in one. Different tones of blush, a nice little neutral eye palette, although there were a couple of other color options available in these kits. It's definitely not the full spectrum of brushes a person might need, but you can supplement by getting some of the other Profusion brush sets. Okay, I'm taking my bronzer up just a little bit higher here onto the cheeks before I'm totally done with it. So now to this palette, and we'll pick out one of these blushes. Let's go with the little bit cooler pink here first. So as you can see, very pigmented, a lot's going to come off on that brush. And this brush is really fairly appropriately sized for blush. It looks a little on the small side, and it's a little smaller than my e.l.f. blush brush that I use every day, but there's absolutely no struggle with using it. And a nice thing about Profusion's brushes, they're so well made. They never shed on me, and they're really, really soft too. So again, one dip in, you're not scrubbing into the product at all. It's a nice pigmented color. I might overlap with a little bit of this earthy toned blushy shade. Like I said, it's kind of like, is it bronzer? Well, it's got a little more rose in it than I would consider to be bronzer. I'm just kind of blending that in, deepening it up slightly out here on this side. Again, we do have a warm pink, like a warm rose, and we have a peach with a little bit of shimmer. That's the only blush with shimmer, is the peach. And then for highlighter, you could just clean off your brush a little bit and then sort of use the top part of the angle to get kind of a precise placement on highlighter. I'm going to go into that little mosaic one, a little bit flaky. Not flaky with bits of sparkle, but just it kicks up some powder. It's soft. And I'm going to apply that right in this zone. Oh, I think that's super pretty. It's definitely like more shimmer than Laura Geller Baked French Vanilla, but not quite as loud as your other shade in here is going to be. It's pearly. That's what it is. It's a pearly highlight. If you want a little more, we could just gently go into the other one just to see. There's a little more like visible shimmer fleck in this one. It's not bad, but I just noticed that being a key difference between the two highlighters. But it's a pretty face look, I gotta say. This is a nice little palette. I've really enjoyed over the years the Profusion blush palettes that'll give you like 6 little rectangles of blush. And here you get to experiment with that quality, but also have the highlights. Really, really pleased with that part of things. And then I am gonna set this today with my Stay Matte Fix and Go, because this has, I think, helped the staying power for some of my looks lately. And there's the face looking really fresh, really even coverage right now. I'm going to do my brows and then we will use that little eye palette. For brows, I use my little CoverGirl Clean Fresh Nano Brow Pencil and then set them with the gel wax, also from CoverGirl. And now we're going to use all the remaining things from the Artistry on the Go set. So we have a little shadow primer, which is actually a really good shadow primer. It's kind of nude in color. It spreads easily. It's a little bit neutralizing on the lids, and I would say it's a bit more tacky than Milani. So it does do a good job of kind of grabbing and intensifying eyeshadows. But you get that mini in the set. And then we have these 2 brushes that we're going to use, and I actually can do most of the look with them. I mean, we're going to try to do the whole thing with them. As far as the brush heads go, they're really good size. It's just shorter handles. Like I said, you can get a great trio of eye brushes. I'll link to it below, of the ones I usually use, which are a crease brush that's not too far off from this, but it's a little bit pinched in here at the top of the ferrule, and it just makes that side-to-side motion really make sense in your crease. And then also the all-important small pointed brush that's in that trio as well. And then here is our little eyeshadow palette, which I think this is ultra wearable. You do have a black. You've got mostly matte here in this 9-pan palette. Mattes across the top, and then mattes here, and these 2. And then these 2 kind of mid-tone shimmers, and there's some shimmer down here in this burgundy shade. Really wearable palette in my opinion. I had an easy time using this yesterday. I'm gonna create a look again today, first with the crease brush going into that kind of medium brown shade. We'll get that going in the crease. And if you have not experimented with Profusion palettes in any way, I think you're gonna be pleasantly surprised. They really have a great powder eyeshadow formula. Like I was saying earlier, many larger palettes to choose from, but this little guy is fun. So we're just getting that really natural crease going with this brush, just a domed crease brush. Next thing I might do after just putting that there in the crease, I would take maybe some of this Dusty Rose right up here and use just a little bit of that in with the look too. Just kind of see how they layer. It deepens it up a little. And then we have this very soft, like peach color, which is great on the edge. Look for shades like that that are kind of off-white. They can just be great on the edge for softening out what you've just done, even though it was already pretty soft. Now it's just like whoosh, undetectable where that shade ends. Then we say, okay, let's add a little depth. Let's add some richness. I'm gonna go to this dark brown right here with this same brush. And I'm gonna get that on the outer part of my crease, okay? Just kind of swirling and buffing. Even though this is a fluffy brush, like I still feel like it's a manageable size. It's not too big. Going right here as I kind of look down, I can see where that crease area is, and that's where I'm kind of confining this shade, the outer part. Look, this look and this alone, if you just wanted to pop one of the lighter shades on the lids, you'd be good. But then what happens with this brush here? This is like a jumbo pencil brush, sort of. I really don't have any brushes in my collection that are like this. It comes to a point, and I could see it, you know, definitely being used on the lower lash line, maybe in by the upper lash line, but it's wide enough and tapered all the way down to actually lay into your shadow and pick up some product and pat it on almost the way I would a small flat brush. So I'm going to go into the dark brown again, get some of that, and we're just going to pat that. And note how easily this is actually happening. And it's able to point it right up into the crease too. Honestly, not a bad option at all. I don't know if they planned the brush to work that way, but it can totally handle just working something onto the lid and then gently kind of easing it to the crease as well with the pointed part of it. So good. A little brown. Yesterday my look ended up seeming a little more like plummy, so I thought maybe we'll go straight neutral with it today. Pat, pat, pat. I mean, it's not a struggle. Then I'm just going to clean off that brush on my hand here, and let's take some of this kind of taupey color, pick up some of that, and just work it in from the inside. Y'all, I do not need to pull in one more brush for this look. We're just tapping it into that shade. You could also use your finger if you wanted to, but I mean, these are smooth shimmers. There's no sparkle, there's nothing tricky to work with. Fans of a cool neutral look might really like this palette. And so many other directions you can go. Like I said, this berry kind of mauve-y burgundy down here is a really nice shade. It has a little embedded sparkle, but it's actually more of a matte performing color. Pretty like dusty lavender in there too. It's a nice little palette. And the whole kit comes together fine. Those inserts are kind of pesky, popping everything back in together, but for 15 bucks, that's quite a bit going on there and very good quality. So additional things we did on the eyes. I used this new Firework mascara from Maybelline on my upper lashes, and I'm absolutely loving it. It is one of the best like building mascaras I've used in a while. Lower lashes, I used Cali Ray Come Hell or High Water, and then also on the lower lash line, I went light in the lower inner rim just to wake the eyes up a little bit more, and then I used this hard candy stick in the shade Pony, which is sort of a taupey color, and I just thought it would coordinate well with the upper part of the eye look and last really well in a very smudgy, soft way on the lower lash line. Now for the lips, I grabbed one of these lip glaze hydrating glossy stains from Profusion. They've got a cute little dropper looking bottle, but it's actually just a doe foot. And guys, this reminds me so much of what I talked about last week from Pretty Smart. They have a liquid lip and cheek stain, and I actually got a really similar color. I didn't really mean to. I'm just drawn to these soft reds. So I'm just painting this all around on the lips, blot it to the lower lip. So immediately after you put it on, you can feel it kind of starting to set somewhat. I'm gonna swatch a little bit of this out on my hand. And I'm gonna give it a couple minutes to just do its thing there and see how much it wants to totally set or how much glossiness kind of remains on the surface. But I do feel like that one from Pretty Smart, it felt a little bit more like a classic stain, more weightless on the lips. This feels just a little more liquid lipstick-ish. Very similar shade to Blossom from this line, but actually more like the Maybelline Vinyl Ink. So you're you're gonna blot off a little bit of color there and a little bit of your shine as you wear it, but it's giving more of a liquid lipstick type of staying power, not just the sheer weightless stain vibe, but also this shade has some shimmer in it, and you may or may not be able to pick up on that on camera, but if I'm looking up really close, I can see it. But yeah, as far as the setting, it's one of those products that's not gonna be 100% dry down. It's gonna keep some moisture and kind of have the appearance of a cream lipstick, but more adherence to your lips than that, if that makes sense. And I got the shade Cherry Glaze, by the way. That's what this one is. I'd call it like a soft, warm red. So my friends, that wraps up my new Profusion video. We had this whole entire makeup kit to talk about, which I thought all in all was very impressive for around $15. Every brush was totally usable. I'm hoping that that face primer enhances the staying power of this foundation, but the palettes were great as well. If you were thinking, well, I'm pretty much only getting this for those palettes, if you already own like a Profusion blush palette and the smoky palette from Profusion, then you've probably got a lot of these shades already. But travel-friendly stuff, absolutely, and I think very beginner-friendly as well. I mean, there's definitely some nice pigmentation throughout these eyeshadows. It could be a little bit overwhelming, perhaps. The way you have to be a little goes a long way with them. Same with the blush too, like one dab in, but if you can kind of understand that policy with these products, it's really a lot that you get to play with for a low price. Feel Good Skin, like I said, we set it a little bit better today. We used a primer today. I will report back in the comments section as far as how the staying power goes for me, but I do really like the look. I like the look at the onset. Very even, very nice coverage, and it does give you a little bit of luminosity too. Yes, you can get up. Oh. And this lip product, for all my soft red lovers, I think the shade is beautiful. The name is Glaze. It's called a hydrating glossy stain. I do feel the hydration, but it will give you some staying power too. So some definite cool finds from Profusion. Let me know if you've tried any of their other new things, and I will see you again very soon. I love you. Bye.